Hi guys, and welcome to session 1 in the LSP online tutorials. This episode I'm going to actually cover over the new 2.8 sequencer, including the basic layout, the GUI overview itself, setting up a controller or elements within LSP sequencer, covering off on how to actually set up a brand new display, and then go through some of the basic effects and adjustments within inside LSP. Okay, so first of all we'll cover off on the GUI overview. Now LightShow Pro itself is split into two different executable programs. You've got the LightShow Pro sequencer, which you're seeing right now on your screen. You've also got the scheduler. Now the scheduler itself is the thing that will play your shows or your display at the certain times, and it will import all of the shows from this sequencer and play them on the outputs for you automatically. Well, sequencer itself has been split up into 6 different working areas of the GUI. So the 6 areas being the file menu options, you've got the collections controller area, you've got the waveform itself, you've got the layers bar, you've got the grid, and finally you've got the display preview. So just to cover off on them all individually now, so we've talked about the file menu and the buttons. Okay, so the file menu itself is a similar feel to it to the new Office window, Office 2013 or the Windows 8. The file menu has large items which are obviously scalable depending on the size of your screen. Cover off on those individually. You've got the different tabs. So you've got the main tab. Okay, this has all the features in reference to your open, save, your new, along with help topics and your licensing details. It also has the ability to log any issues that you might have found, and also a link to the LightShow Pro website. The next one here is your options tab. Inside here, this is basically the configuration area for the entire program. You've got the ability to configure the settings for the program using the configuration screen. You can obviously configure any of your outputs that you're going to need. The outputs are used obviously to output to a controller or a device that you're using. And you've also got the speech recognition. Okay, the speech recognition itself is driven by the Microsoft inbuilt tool for Windows, and is actually quite handy and very, very useful to use, especially for those people that haven't got the dexterity anymore. The next tab is your playback tab. This obviously covers off on all of your normal play functions that you see on any CD player, DVD player. It's got your rewind, your stop, your play and your pause. These are obviously mimicked as well in the shortcut bar up the top. Some of the other options here we've got is the loop play. That will obviously loop any particular section that you've selected in your waveform. If you haven't got any selection or area selected, your loop play will play back the entire sequence. You've got the ability to change your playback rate, so if you like to sequence at a slower speed, you can obviously slow those speeds down so you can actually hear each of the beats a lot easier. You've got the zoom in and zoom out tools. That will zoom in depending on which area you've selected, but that will zoom into the grid itself. You've got the scale up and scale down as well, which will change your channel heights. You've got the ability to lock your grid so you can't move any of the timing marks that you've got inside LSP here. You've got the output configuration button, the output button itself. What this will do is actually turn on output through your either USB device if you're using USB or your Ethernet port. You've got the ability to change any of your sequence configurations, so you can change what song you might be using throughout this, the name of the sequence, and other pertinent information. You've got the ability to print whatever channels you've currently got listed in your show. This can actually help you when you're trying to set up or capture how many channels you're actually utilizing. The last option here is obviously to create a video using the inbuilt tools and templates within inside LSP. You can actually capture a visualizer video so you can upload it to YouTube in preparation for a live video that you might do later on. The next area is the effects tab, and this covers off on all of your individual effects that we can use throughout LightShow Pro sequencing. You also have some additional options here, being the copy and paste, undo and redo functions. Again, you've got your zoom in, zoom outs. You've also got a highlighter tool, which when you select it will actually highlight or paint the area that you're actually choosing. Quite handy when you want things to stand out for your sequencing events. So some of the options that we've got inside here, the normal select tool, that'll allow you to select any particular area that you want or any effects that you've got. You can use that in conjunction with the copy. One thing I should point out here is each of these keys have a hotkey, and if you hover over, you'll actually see that Shift B will activate the toggle. For select, for the fill, obviously Shift C will work with that as well. Your typical Windows commands, your Control C for copy, your Control V for paste, and things like that will also work. Control Z for undo. You've got the off tool, which will turn off any particular effect that you might have in there just by clicking and dragging over the effect, and it will remove those effects from that particular area. The next one you've got is Chaser, okay, and this creates a chase pattern over a selected range of cells that you choose. You've got Ramp Up and Ramp Down. It shows an increase in intensity over a duration that you select by clicking and dragging. You've got a Shimmer tool that provides a shimmer effect over your entire lights or whatever lights you decide to choose. A Wave tool will actually provide a pattern within your pixel lights, which can also change with its frequency and intensities. Twinkle, similar to the Shimmer but of a different magnitude. Okay, the intensities are different there, and it actually has an effect similar to that of obviously a twinkling star. You got the On button, okay, and what that will do is actually turn on, okay, 100% intensity any cell that you choose. You got the RGB tool for those people that need to use or want to use RGB lights, and it's quite simple by choosing your colors. A Sono FX and an amplitude effect tool, and basically what this does is it enables it to use the frequencies inside the waveform here to automatically insert the effects for you into the designated cells. The last tab that we'll cover here is the Visuals tab. Okay, inside the Visuals tabs you've got additional visual settings for the waveform, for the grid, and for the display preview. And we'll cover those in a different lesson. Okay, so moving on, the next one that we've got here is the Collections area. Okay, so this is the Collections tab, which has expandable areas inside. Now basically what the Collections area is, it holds your key or commonly used items such as controllers, your transitions, your macros, patterns, and recent tools. Okay, and to break those down a little bit further, your controllers is basically a large database of controllers used for those things in Blinky land. Okay, it speeds up the setup process by automatically loading the default settings for each individual controller. So you just move through, you find out whatever protocol that you might be using, select a device, and drag it straight into your area, and it'll automatically set it up going by the settings that you choose through the next couple of dialog boxes, and we'll cover that shortly. The next one is your transitions, and to activate transitions just click on it once and it'll automatically bring up the database again with a drop down. So from here you can actually click and drag transitions into particular areas of your layer bar. Same goes for your live transitions and your mono transitions. Now the transitions themselves are generated from a video file or an AVI file. Okay, so all the encoding is actually done through the file itself, and it basically captures the color effects inside there and transforms them straight into your display. The next one you've got here is the macro option, and this has a large proportion of predetermined macros that LSP has actually got. The additional macros themselves will be located inside the layer position once you choose the macro effect. The next area that we've got is the patterns, and this is an area that saves any previous patterns that we've used. Say that we've got, we'll just see if we've got one just here. We've got an area here that we like these patterns. What we can actually do is select all of those, and we can send them to our pattern area, okay, just by using the right click on that particular area and saving that pattern. And what it will do is actually import the pattern into the My Patterns area. This enables us to be able to click and drag that particular pattern anywhere that we like and insert it into our display. The last one is the recent tools. Now the recent tools has or shows your most recent tools that you've used, but it also shows the corresponding hotkeys to actually activate those particular tools. It's quite handy again for those people that don't have the dexterity. They can just click on that, okay, and change your particular hotkeys. So the next one that we'll cover is actually the waveform itself, and I'll just choose my select tool here. So the waveform itself. Now, the waveform area at the top displays your current musical track in a frequency graphic. Okay, so this demonstrates your high and low frequencies, or areas of large amounts of frequency and low amounts of frequency, which help depict when beats are occurring within a song by utilizing these peaks and troughs. Okay, there are filters that can be applied to the waveform to aid in a visual representation, and as I mentioned, you'll be able to find those in the Visuals tab here, but you're able to actually add additional colors by using the sonogram. You've got the ability to display low energy. Now, clicking on that will actually bring up, okay, as you can see just here, similar to that of a sine wave, or one that you'll actually see on your medical equipment. Okay, it actually has red increased peaks, and what that actually dictates is increases in the frequency, okay, or large amounts of frequency there. And you'll actually note, if you've played this back through your headphones, that you'll actually see or hear beats at each one of these raised areas. During playback, anytime that you are selecting playback, if you wanted to actually speed up what you're hearing or slow it down, all you need to do is click inside your waveform and hold your left mouse click down, and then move the mouse to the right or to the left, and that'll actually slow down the sound that you're hearing. So the waveform area itself, that will actually increase and decrease in its size. You see here at the moment that it's indicating every half a second. Okay, but that will actually zoom in and zoom out depending on what you're doing with your grid view itself. So if you use your mouse wheel and the control key and zoom in, you'll notice that even though I'm still at the half-second intervals, it's actually become wider in its appearance, and that's because I've actually zoomed into my grid to get a better representation, or a smaller grid view. I'll do that again, control and using my mouse wheel button, okay, zoom in, and I've zoomed out. Okay, so that just increases what you can see there. Underneath the waveform is our layer area. Now, layers are basically the ability to link different elements, different controllers, different channels into one particular area, selectable area. In this case, we can actually move them into particular parts of our display. So you'll notice that I've got a couple of different ones here that actually correspond with my house. So I've got one that's listed as all. So basically, if I click on this all button, that has all of my elements that I've currently got displayed at my house. What that will enable me to do, if I decided to run a macro or a transition and I wanted to run over all of my house, I just run my macro or transition inside the all layer that I've chosen. I've also got other ones obviously set up for just the gutters, for the roof line itself, and then joining those two together, I've got it for the house outline. So if I wanted to have just the whole house itself, I'll just do a layer on that particular layer itself, a layer effect. Similarly, down the front of my house, I have some leaping arches on the left side of the house and some leaping arches on the right side of the house. So again, left and right. The possibilities are endless with this. You can set it up however you like. Okay, you've got basically an unlimited amount of layers that you can choose from, and all you need to do whilst holding your mouse over the layer area is use your mouse wheel up and down, or the slide bar on the side, to actually scroll through them. As you can see, I've got quite a large amount there anyway. Okay, so the next area that we'll cover is actually the grid area itself. Now, the grid area is the working area of the software. This is where you'll do all your effects. This is where you'll promulgate all of your layers. This is basically where you do all your tinkering. Now, you can add effects, as I've mentioned, directly into the grid for using the tools at the top here. You can either expand your elements and add them in channel by channel, okay, which is obviously going to be quite time consuming, or if you minimize your element itself, you can add it to the entire element by having it in a closed view. As you can see, there it is there. Okay, so that brings us to our sixth area inside here, which is the display preview. Um, Now this is separate to the visualizer, however can be run alongside it. Now the visualizer is basically a video representation of your display that will show up within the grid and layer area here. However, the display preview is slightly different, where it can actually be moved. Now to maneuver this, you can either click and drag on its title bar and move it to whichever area that you like, and then you can move to its corners, okay, and expand it out to a size that you like. Now if you wanted to zoom in, you can either click inside the box itself, or once you've clicked once, you can use your mouse wheel up and your mouse wheel down to actually zoom in and zoom out. You can have that to however you like. Now there's some bonus abilities with the click and drag around using the title bar itself. You'll notice that there's been some areas show up here just above my mouse cursor at the moment. It looks like an arrow or a placement mark. You can actually move your area onto that, and it'll automatically resize it to the area that's particular to. So you notice there that it's actually moved to above my waveform or my control area itself. Similarly, you can move that down over to the right hand side of the screen, so it takes up half of the right hand side. Okay, you can also use the ones inside here and they highlight to where they're going to go. If you're not happy and you want to just send it straight back to its home, which was down here, simply double click on the title bar and it'll go back to its last known location. If you want it to go back to the initial place, move it over to the side and it will go back. You want to pop it back out again, double click on the title bar, out it comes, double click again, back it will go. Okay, so you can play around with that and move it. Alright. Now I've been referring to these individual banks of channels here as controllers or elements. Now elements is probably the better way of actually describing it. Whilst you can set it up as individual channels or controllers, as I mentioned before, by clicking and dragging, it actually makes it far easier to work inside LSP if you set them up for individual elements. Now inside there you've got the ability to change whatever channel count that you actually want. So you'll notice here that I've got for roof left up, it starts at channel 1 and goes all the way down to channel 102. So that's the end of that element. Whereas my next one, which is roof left down, starts at 103. So just allocating the correct channel numbers to each of these elements will ensure that it actually goes still through your normal universe settings. Now elements is a term used for part of your display. Okay, this could be an individual string of LED lights or a complex matrix of thousands of pixels. It can be spread across 100 channels inside a universe, or it can be spread across 100 universes. It's completely up to you. There is no need to set up individual strings or strips for matrices of megatrees, or megatrees I should say. You set the desired channels and the directions of the data travel, and LSP will do the rest for you. So to set up an element, you move the corresponding controller into your grid area. Okay, from the dialog box here, you can see that I've selected a J1sys PIX88. Okay, it's 512 channels of E131. Okay, so that's just its protocol. Selecting yes will actually bring up what channel you want it to actually start it with. You can either set it here if you like, if you know what your channel number is going to be, or just leave it at number 1 and come back and select that later. So you can skip it if you like, or just select OK, either. Now this is the next area that you'll bring up to, okay, and this is your controller settings itself. Here's where you actually set up how many channels they're going to be for this particular element. So say I've got a string of 100 pixels. Okay, what I do is I set that up as 100. Once I click somewhere else, okay, you'll notice that it's still stayed here at 100 physical channels, and that's because we're using it as a light controller. What we just need to do here is select it as an RGB for our 3 channels. Okay, we can select the orientation for that particular light depending on how the light has been manufactured, whether it's RGB or GBR, etc. And we select OK. Lets us know that the controller channels were successfully reset for that particular protocol. Now you'll notice that I've now got 300 physical RGB channels, and that's exactly how many it would be for 100 pixels itself. You got the ability now to identify the controller that you've actually used. So if this one here was, we'll just call it icicles, okay, and we're going to use that. Maybe it's icicles on the gutter, and it's on the left hand side of my house, however you wanted to name it. You've also got the ability to change the color, so using the clicking on the color itself, you can choose whatever color that suits your fantasy, or fancy I should say. You've got the ability now to also change any protocols that you might be using. Perhaps you've selected a E131 protocol device and it actually wasn't E131, you needed to change it to something else, maybe an ArtNet device or a LAW dongle device. You can change it here as well. If at this stage you've worked out that you know exactly what channel number you're starting with, you can click on the Channels tab and then renumber your channels. Brings you up with your the channel ordering as we mentioned before, but here's where you can actually set the start channel. So if we were starting this at channel 10,000 and select OK, the first thing that we'll notice is whilst channel 1 is now at 10,000, if we scroll all the way down using the down arrow here, we'll get all the way down to the bottom. Okay, and channel 35 is 10102. Okay, that'll automatically renumber them inside the element that you've selected here. Now you'll notice that you don't actually see it here at the moment. Okay, and that's because I've actually selected a layer. Now when I select a layer, you've got the option to change this inside the configuration settings that I showed you, or was alluding to before. What it basically does is it'll only show me the channels that are actually associated with this particular layer. Now if I was to unclick that, I'll still have my megatree up there because I've also got the megatree selected. If I was to unchoose that now, it'll display any particular controllers or elements that haven't been grouped into any of the layers. Okay, and the only one that I've got here is my icicles gutter left. Okay, and as we can see, we can have a gander at the numbers of the channels all the way down to, and I can expand that out. Okay, channel 10299. You can also change the order. Okay, so it might be 10299 might be actually before or backwards, I guess you could say, so it's a reverse string. Okay, so you can increase the size just by using the arrows there, clicking and dragging. Minimize the controller or element again by clicking on anywhere in the color part of it. Okay, and it'll increase or decrease its viewing area. So whether you're setting up complex matrices of thousands of pixels, or you just want to set up your 240 volt rope light, okay, it's no different. Okay, so all you need to do is actually go through, select whatever controller that you might be using. So we might be using a 16 channel board from Lightorama. Okay, and all we do is we go through and we set it all up. We can change the controller ID depending on what we need it to change it to. Inside our zone we've got the network or the zone network. Okay, and we can also change, if we're going to be running RGB off of this, we could obviously change that down to what we need it to be, and make our changes inside here as well. So it's completely up to you how you actually set these. Okay, so there I've got it inside there. It's given me some basic settings there, and I can just assign individual channels. Say this might be my rope light, so I can actually draw that rope light in by right clicking on it, draw channel image. Okay, and I can draw that in using the tools up the top here, which we'll cover shortly. Alright, and say you've got 16 of these Lightorama controllers, you can actually clone the controller. So all you need to do is right click, as soon as it catches up, right click on the controller itself, and you'll notice that there's an option here to clone controller. What that will do is make an exact replica of that channel, of that controller or element itself. Very handy if you've got, say, 20 candy canes set up as an element, or individual elements, or stars, or in this case we've got them set up as controllers. Okay, and you can just keep doing that as well, cloning the controller again. Okay, it'll just keep making clones. The only thing that you need to do at this stage, okay, because you'll note that all of them are set up the same, If you needed to change them so that they're being given a different channel number, just right click on that particular element, configure the controller, go to channels, and then you can start or change the start number. So if 16 was the end of the first one, 17 is going to be the start of this one. And straight away you'll notice that it's renumbered them all. Okay, it's taken us down to 32. So the next one here, obviously we'll change that, configure it again, and we'll change that to start at 33. And we keep doing that to however many that we've got. Okay, so that basically covers off the basics in reference to the GUI and setting up some minor elements inside a show. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually create a show from scratch. So just bear with me while I close this one down. Okay, I don't need to save that one. Alright, so now it's time to start our first sequence. This is the screen that you'll be prompted with when you haven't set up anything so far. It's just a blank effects area. What you need to do is decide what kind of sequence you want to set first, whether it's going to be an animation sequence, so no musical file in the background, or if you actually want to have media associated with it, so an MP3 or a WAV file playing in the background. For this, we're going to set up a new media sequence. Once you click on the button up the top under the main system tab, we bring up with the sequence configuration. You've got the option here to set your sequence author. Now if this is the first time you set it up, or if you make any changes, it will ask you if you want to make those the default settings. You've got the multimedia file name. What you need to do here, select the three dots to the right of the input box, browse to where your music file is located, and select whatever song that you want to actually play. We'll choose the Boogie Woogie Christmas and click open. If the MP3 has data in the properties in reference to the artist title and album, that'll generate straight into this area as well. You have the ability, if you want, to highlight and delete or edit where you see fit. You can now either click on the begin button or click on the next tab across to continue. In the sequence setting, you've got the option to load default controllers. Now this is very handy, especially if you're setting up a default display, so you're going to make all your controller changes in one particular element, one particular sequence. What you can do there, any new sequence that you actually start, you can load all of those previous one, including the channel images, from that saved default location and import them directly into this current one. Saves a lot of time, and obviously you don't have to redo all of your channel configurations for every sequence. To do so, just select the checkbox next to it and then click the three dots and browse to the location. With 2.8, you'll notice that My LightShow Sequences is the folder that you'll find it, and you can select whichever one you like. You can cancel out at any time or press OK. We're going to start from scratch anyway. The next option you've got here is intervals. Intervals are for the timing marks, so that you're going to actually set up throughout your display. You can have it automatically done it for you. So the first option you've got is 1/10 of a second. You've got the half second and 1 second mark. Or using the frequencies inside the WAV file that you might be using itself, it'll automatically add timing marks to the cymbal intervals, the snare drum, bass, and it even has the ability to do it to the vocal intervals. You can select your own custom interval if you like, if you wanted to have it at every 1.5 seconds. Just type in 1.5. You've also got the option not to add any whatsoever. For this, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set up at half-second intervals. Now again, you can click on the next or the back button. Back will obviously take you back to the first tab. Next will send you to the next one. You've got the voiceover tab here as well. For those people that are enjoying one of the higher versions of LightShow Pro, you'll actually be able to use the voiceovers for your intro and exit. As you can see, there's a large list of them here. By selecting any one of them and then clicking the play, you'll actually be able to hear what it says, and you've also got the description of what is being said in there. You don't have to use any of these if you don't want to. The last one is our display. So this is actually the picture for the display that we're going to be using, so we can set up our elements or channel images. If you want to change it, select on the load, navigate to where your picture is located and select it. Don't worry so much about the size of the picture because the program will resize. So once you've selected, either double click or click and open. An image will come up here telling you it's too large and that the optimal size is obviously 320 by 240. LightShow Pro will automatically resize it to the default size for us. Okay, so it compresses the image down for us. You've got a slider bar
to the right, so you can set the darkness or the brightness of the image itself, okay, to in a sense emulate daytime or nighttime. Obviously those people that have quite a large amount of dark lights might want to actually set it at a light time, just so they can actually see what that will look like, or generate the effects what it will look like in the display preview. You've got another checkbox here for save as defaults. So if you wanted your display to set up with this image at this brightness, click on that and then select finish, and for all future displays that you actually start to create, that is the setting that it will actually come up to. Once you click on finish, okay, it does some work with the MP3s in the background, sets up the sequence itself, and it will bring you up to this next screen here, which is basically drag the controller to begin.
So grab yourself one of your controllers from the side here. You can select any from the controller list, or you can just select a blank one. What we're going to do now, we'll just grab one of the E131s. Just click and drag it straight into there, and it'll bring you up within that controller dialog. Basically select yes. It doesn't matter if you've chosen the wrong one. You can always go back, or through this process you can actually select the correct protocol or whatever that you might need. You can set your start channel. It's probably best to leave this until the next step anyway, and select OK. You've got the ability now to set up how many particular channels you've got inside this. Now, since this is going to be an RGB pixel controller, I'm going to set that up as an RGB light controller. You can change the channel ordering in case the strip or strings that you've received aren't actually RGB. They might be BGR or GBR, etc. So instead of doing it through the controller settings software that might have come with the controller, you can actually do it inside here. We're just going to leave it at the RGB, and again leave the start channel at 1. It tells me that any of the changes were done, and these are now the defaults. As you can see, our physical channels are up at 1536, and for a universe, a normal universe I guess you could say, of pixels, that far extends the DMX universe. So what we need to do is keep that at 512, or if you're going to be doing this, you need to make sure that you have enough controllers to actually control that many channels. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a string of 100 pixels, so that will give us 300 physical channels. I'm going to give this a bit of a name. Now be unique with your names, because this is going to be set up so you can actually link these to your different layers and things like that. So in this case I'm going to actually call this gutter hole. You've got the ability to put a color to this now. Personally, I like to actually color my individual universes, so I know exactly which one's part of where. So in this case we're just going to give it any color. We'll use a solid green. We've already changed to RGB light controller, but there's the other options you can choose there, especially say you're controlling servos, etc. And if you had made the mistake before, or you dragged the wrong controller in there, you can actually change whatever protocol you like here. Once you're happy with that, the next thing you can do is actually click on the channels area here, although you don't need to. You can do this later as well. And this will give you the ability to draw your channel image and renumber or add prefixes to your channels themselves. We're not going to do that at the moment. We're just going to select OK. And what we'll see straight away is our grid has now appeared. Our wave bar has also appeared. We've got the layer, and we've also got the gutter hole controller or element that we've just put into here. The first thing that we need to do is actually draw a channel image. So to draw a channel image, right click on the controller itself, and then select Draw Channel Images. You'll notice a picture of your display preview has come up, or your display itself. Using your mouse wheel you can zoom in, zoom out. Now whilst we're in this view here, you've got all the different options across the top here to actually draw your elements in. So you've got your normal draw tool, you've got a straight line tool, square and ellipse or a circle tool. You've also got the same again, but using the C9, so this actually has a larger dot across. You've got the icicles, a snowflake, star, rope lights. You've got the tree, which is a mega tree, so you can either have a 3D mega tree or just a 2D mega tree, and it's got the setting options inside there. You can see those in other videos. You've got a Z tree option, an arch, a matrice or a matrix itself. You can set up your floods, strobes, and net lights. You've also got the ability to add your own user tools inside there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to set up a straight line, basically all the way across my gutter line here. And to do that, we'll go to the C9 line. So using your left mouse button, click and drag, click at the point that you want to start and where you want to finish. One thing that you'll want to do, and I'll get onto this dialog box in a second, if you're going to be setting up your input of data for a pixel from this side, it's easier if you actually start your click and drag from there. Okay, depending on where you start your click and drag will basically identify where the start of the data is going to be. So we want to split this across multiple channels because this one string here is going to have 300 physical channels or 100 pixels. So we select yes. And it gives us the option now to actually set our start channels. Now we've already named this controller gutter hole, and we know that channel 1 through to 300 is just for the gutter. So what we can do is we just select our first channel for gutter hole and our last channel for gutter hole, and as you can see it's already selected there because I don't have any other controllers added or elements added. So we'll select that at 100, so channels 1 through to 100, which obviously takes us up to channel or physical channel 300. So this says 298, but you've got to understand it's RGB, so there's 3 channels, 298, 299 and 300. You can add prefixes to them again if you like. And then you've got the option to either select the segments as single pixels per channel section or multi-pixels per channel section. Those are covered in a different video. Once you select OK, you'll notice that it's drawn it in. Okay, what we've done now is we've actually applied that channel image to our display. Click on the OK button and it looks like nothing else has changed. There's an option up the top here which is our timing highlights. Okay, as you can see here I've got some red lines that actually come down, and they're actually set up at half-second intervals, which is what I actually set it up initially through my setup for this sequence. You've got the option using the touch mode to actually add additional timing marks in there if you like. It might be important for you to actually add different colors. Okay, maybe you're doing specific timing marks for, say, vocals in a track, so you can actually select, say, green, and using the touch mode tool again you'll notice that the red lines have gone, and if I actually click, my timing marks are now green. Okay, which is actually handy because if I now start to use my effects and I want to color in that whole area in between the green lines with just the effect, all I need to do is click on there and I'll actually draw it between that green and green. If I take off my tinting, my timing mark tint and click on shared, whilst I've still got the timing lines there, they are now smaller and I can actually select individual segments just like that. So that's one of the handy things about timing highlights, and you might find use for that, especially when we're talking about vocal tracks or changes in the tracks themselves. It's completely up to you. So I'm just going to undo some of those effects now just by using the Windows undo key, which is Control Z. Okay, and we're back to a normal state. Now I can have the red one on there if I like, which is just our standard, but I prefer to work with just the shared on. Okay, so I've taken the liberty to actually add some additional layers now into my demonstration, and you can't see any channels or any controllers actually listed here. Basically what you need to do, and I've applied them to the channels, to the layers themselves, and if I was to select any of those layers, if I choose I haven't selected anything, my gutter or my roof line, but my house outline, I've got all of these different controllers all set up already. That gives me ease, so I know that this particular element here, which is the roof left up, has channels 1 through to 102. Roof left down obviously joins onto that. It gives me a greater control over, even though I could do this with one single string, this just gives me the ability to break it up a little bit further. So I've taken the step to actually load up another sequence which I've already identified all of my controllers and elements. That doesn't actually change anything that we've been doing so far. So what I'm going to do is just select my all one, which brings up all of my controllers. As you can see, I've color coded them. This basically depends on the location that they're actually situated on the house for this sequence itself. I've mentioned before that I like to do individual colours for different universes, and in this case it actually works out very close to that, except for my light blue here, which is actually 3 universes worth of light. So, some of the basic effects that we can do. Now, if we go up to our effects bar here, we've already touched on these in a previous session. However, the main ones that you'll be concerned about are your ramp up. Obviously, to use your ramp up, you select the tool by left clicking, and then click and drag, and you can actually provide a ramp up effect. And that basically starts off in the intensity of 0, ramps it all the way up over evenly over that period, up to 100%. You get to choose your colour that you want. We'll go green on this. As you can see, it ramps up to 100% intensity. Similarly, the ramp down effect does the opposite. So it starts at 100 and finishes off at 0. You've got a multitude of other effects here, including wave, which will actually perform a wave-like effect, which you get to actually adjust inside here by adjusting the intensities, the heights, and things like that. So if we select that, you can see that it provides a wave-like effect through all of these pixels there. Using my shortcut key of Control Z, I'm just undoing those effects that I've done. You've got the shimmer tool, which provides a shimmer over the lights themselves, so it's a rapid pulsing, irregular pulse. And you've also got the twinkle effect, which obviously has varying intensities at random intervals. That does it over those particular elements. So you'll notice that the shimmer has a wavy line, and the twinkle itself has almost a dotted kind of effect to it there. Again, Control Z to undo those. Then you've got your standard on tool, so you can select on. Okay, just click and drag, or just select individual locations wherever you like. Continuously change the color if you like. Use your select tool. You can select any of the tools. Control C to copy, or you can use the copy up here, and then start pasting them in wherever you like. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. You've also got the off tool, so just simply click and drag, and you can actually turn off any of the lights or the effects that you had there, or select them individually if you like. Okay, for this I'm just going to delete all of those. So the first thing that we're going to go through is just how to do some very basic chases. Now there's the chaser effect tool here, which is quite good. However, I much prefer to do my chases manually over a set duration. To do the chase, what you need to do is actually gather yourself an effect already, or copy yourself an effect. So there's obviously a couple of different effects you can use, just your normal on tool if you like, or your ramp up tool. So in this case I'm going to use the ramp up tool. So I click my select tool, select the effect that I actually want to copy, and press Control C, or the copy effect up there. Now I don't need any of those effects in there anymore, so I can undo those. Okay, and they're gone. Now to provide a chase, you can either individually select the on tool on each of the cells over the duration that you want. However, that's going to show up as a very blocky kind of effect. The other option is to actually utilize your shift key. Now holding down your shift key before you click and drag will actually produce an arrow. Okay, and that's a directional arrow, so that's the direction that the chase is actually going to go. So in this case here, it's going to start in the top left there on channel 7 and finish off on channel 63 bottom right. It asked me what kind of chase I wanted to do, whether I just want it to be a linear, so a straight line chase across my lights. I've also got the options through the drop down to ease in, so it will actually be a slow curve in over my lights and then rapid. Sorry, so that was ease out. Ease in is what I just mentioned, or you can have it to ease in or ease out together. So we'll actually ease in, have a rapid in the middle, and then a slow ease out. We'll just do a linear for starters and select OK. You've got the ability to change the colours that you might have already selected. Now I highlighted or copied a red ramp up before. You've got the ability, if you like, to actually change that colour. Maybe you want it to start off at red and then go to yellow. Okay, so it's just a normal mix tool there. Now you've got the option, when you select OK, to either span the clipboard effects. What that will actually do is have that red to yellow over the entire, or over every single pixel, or you can get it to start off at red and then finish at yellow, so span the entire chase. That's the one we're going to do at the moment. I select OK, and it generates the option, or generates the chase itself. One of the things that you'll first notice once this is generating is it's added all these additional timing marks in there. Don't be too concerned about those. Basically, those timing marks are attributed to where the actual effect starts and finishes that is outside the other timing marks that we had previously. As you can see up the top here, channel 7, it started at red, down to 63, and it finished at yellow. So that's a simple way of doing a chase. Now the good thing is, you can turn these simple chases into more complex. So starting at the same channel, so channel 63, holding my shift key, clicking and dragging, I can actually go back over the top of this chase but in a different angle. So you can see the starting bottom left, finishing top right. So that's the direction of travel. Again, I can do a linear chase, and let's apply a different blend to it. Using our recent tool, we should be able to find another effect down here that we've used. Just choose a random one, a green to purple. We'll flip those around just by clicking in the center, so it starts purple to green. Select OK, and again we'll get it to span the entire chase. So it's going to generate its effect again, and we should see it start bottom right in purple, which it has, and up to green. Okay, and as you can see, it's just crossed basically over the top of the paths. Now if we were to have a look at that, I'll just bring this out again. Zoom in, we should actually see an effect with our roof left up. So you'll have to actually look just over on this portion just here to actually see what the effect is. Okay, and you really can't see it too well. So what I'll do is I'll actually do that over one of my arches for the next demonstration. So I'll just delete those by pressing the Control Z key. So I'm undoing my chase there for the green and purple. It's removing the timing marks as well, and I'll do it again to remove the other chase. So I'm going to move down to my arches. So I'll do my arch left to my arch far left to my arch center left. So this time I'm going to use the full on tool, so there's no ramping up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a bit of fun with these ones. So I'm going to make it red and green. Okay, two separate ones there. I'm going to select that entire effect and add it to my clipboard by Control C. Then I'm going to press Control Z to undo those effects. They're gone. What I can do now, if I shrink down the controller or the element, I can actually work over my entire effect a lot easier, so I don't have to actually scroll down through my channels. So I'll shrink it down using the shift key, holding that in, and then left clicking and drag. I get the same effect with my arrow coming down. So this case is going to start off on my far left hand side of my arch left and finish on my arch center left on the right hand side of that. Okay, again we'll just do a linear chase. I'm going to leave it at the same colours because I had the red and the green there, and I'm going to generate the chase. Now we're looking here at about 84 pixels, so 246 channels. It'll only take a minute to generate. It shouldn't take too long at all. We should see the timing marks pop up soon. Okay, so there it is there. If I expand it up, you can notice that the chase, it's a lot closer together this time. Alright, so what we can do now, okay, we've got this chase just there. Let's have a look at it. So I'll just bring my timing mark back a little bit. Didn't quite go far enough, I apologise. Okay, so now if we just loop that over and we have a play of it, you can see a nice chase starting there, red with a green chaser itself. Okay, so that's one of the ways that you can do the chase. Now, as I mentioned before, you can do the opposite. So chases within the chase. So all you need to do now, hold down the shift key and move on up. Oops, sorry, I missed that. I'll start that again. Okay, again we'll do the linear chase, but this time let's add a different kind of colour into there, so it's actually going to fly back on itself. We'll open up the recents again, see if there's anything that will stand out. Just pick a random one, purple to blue, switch that around and OK it. So what this will do now is actually generate the chase going from right to left, so they should actually overlap each other. And then we have it. It looks a little bit messy there, but if we were to expand it up, okay, you can obviously see that it jumps over itself, which is kind of the effect that we're after. And the only way to see if that is actually the valid effect that we want is to obviously play it again. So we'll okay, so there's a simple way of doing a chase effect on there. Obviously you fix the timings up a little bit better for yourself. Alright, so you can do this over as many elements as you like. So if I was to do this over my house elements, so I'm just going to undo those effects for starters. Okay, so now that that's done, let's just have a look just purely at my gutter line, I guess you could say, of the house. Now my gutter line is all green. Okay, that's just my controller colours. I've still got an effect actually applied to it, but what I'm going to do is actually make a new effect. So what we're going to do is a little bit of a this is what basically a dual colour, like a red-green kind of wreath effect. So here what we do is we just draw the effect how we want it. Should have another one here. Okay, apologise for taking the long way about doing this, but okay, so we've got a checkerboard effect there. Again, choose your select tool, select the colours you want, or the effects you want, Control C to copy. Since I've had 16 different effects there, I'm going to use the off tool to get rid of them. They're gone. Go back to my select tool, and this time what I'm going to do is actually apply that chase over my entire upper or gutter line. So holding down my shift key, okay, straight across, linear effect. I don't want to apply a blend to the chase because I'm happy with the colours that I've got, which obviously blanks out these other two effects. Select OK, it generates the effect, or generates the chase now. Now the generating of effects depends on a couple of different things, or the speed of this I should say. The speed of your computer is obviously going to be a major factor for it. Also the number of channels that you're doing and the complexity of the effects themselves. Okay, so if you've got a large amount of timing marks that need to be added in, like this one will, it's obviously going to take a little bit longer than normal. Okay, so there's the effects generated now. If I open it up, we've got the checkerboard effect all the way along, but this time we're doing a chase with it. How's that going to look across our display? Well, let's have a gander. So we press play. Okay, so we can see that they're actually chasing each other in a green and red formation, which is quite a good effect. Obviously you can choose whichever colours you like there. And if you want it to come back the other way, simply just do the exact same in reverse. Probably a bit too wide there. In the linear function, and select generate. Okay, so we've got it now built on the other side. We can have a gander. Looking at that again, so it starts off left to right, then comes back right to left, a little bit faster because I made it shorter. One of the things that you can do here, and you can play around with these chases as much as you like. Perhaps you wanted to actually have, say, a white cell or something like that going through the whole strip, just to give it that candy cane effect to it. Again, just select your effect that you want, undo that, and what we can do is start it at the start, go all the way to the end. I don't think this will actually look very good. I probably wanted to finish it at the halfway mark. And what I'd want to do is obviously go back the other way as well. Okay, so we get one going from left to right and one going from right to left. So we'll do that. We apply the chase, and we'll have a look what it looks like now. Okay, so just looking at the grid line here, we can see that there's something going from right to left and left to right. So let's open it up, and we'll highlight where all the effect, whoops, sorry, I went past it. Okay, bring our display preview back and let's play it. Okay, so there we can see the white chase happening at the same time, crossing over each other. Okay, so that's one of the different kinds of chases that you can do, basic chase effects. One of the other really cool tools that we've got here is the fill tool. Now this enables us to fill between different colours or any spaces that are blank. It comes in very handy, especially if you've been doing some sequencing. So you've got white and red, okay, maybe another colour, random one, yeah, orange will do, and the last colour, blue. Okay, these are say on drum beats or something like that, but what you want it to do is actually have the lights remain on. The fill tool will actually fill up any of these spaces here with a colour that you choose, or it'll actually blend the two colours together. So I'll show you what I mean. So say I wanted this gap in between to be green. All I do is select any fields, or sorry, any cells in between and select green. That automatically fills those up. Okay, so say I want this one here to actually mould or merge, I guess you could say, between red and orange. Same deal again. Select any of the cells. Actually, I won't do that one. I'll do it on this side this time. Okay, and I'll do an auto blend. Okay, don't worry about the colour up here. If you've clicked auto blend, what that's going to do is choose the first colour and the last colour, and it's going to blend them all together. Okay, so you can see there's a nice effect there. And similarly, if I do it on here as well, I choose an auto blend, we'll go from orange to blue. So you can create some really decent fading effects. This can also work in between transitions. Okay, I think I just click down the bottom there, or in this case, say we've got this chase up here, we can just select any of those cells there, auto blend it, and for that entire controller, what it's going to do is actually blend the colours. So we can see there, red, green, okay, all the way down. Okay, we look at the next one, we've got nothing at the moment. Expand it open, again, select any of the blank cells, auto blend, okay, and voila, it's done again. All the way down, and we can even see that we've got the white in play as well. So let's have a look to see what that effect actually made on it. So we'll look at the whole lot. Moving too fast for the program there. We'll play it. Okay, so we've got the first two strips that are going to remain on, which it has, and then they're going to turn off. They're fading into the colours. Very simple. The one last thing that we'll quickly show you is that you can actually do the chase effects using macros. Okay, a very simple way of doing this, and I'm going to use my arches again because they're easy. Okay, so if I expand my layers bar here, you'll notice that I've got all these different named areas. In this case, what I want to do is select my arches one, and I can turn off all, so I get rid of the check mark there. So all it's displaying now is the arches that I've actually linked to that particular layer. What I want to do is actually apply a macro to that. So inside this layer area, if you just left click and drag, you can choose what length you actually want to make your macro. So we're just going to make it that long there. What's that work out to be? 4.5 seconds. And I'm going to choose a macro effect. All I want to do is get the leaping arch again. So what I can do is I actually choose a color slider macro. It's a simple way of doing it. And I click add. Choose my color gradient. This is where I can either use one of the inbuilt colors that come with it, or I can make a color myself, or I think myself. I'm going to use the chrome one because I think it looks pretty cool. It's going to start off blue, finish off gold, chrome itself. I'm going to select OK. You've got the option now to start the colors on screen or off screen. Okay, but I want to start them off screen, therefore I'm going to see the first pixel light up, and I'm going to finish it off screen as well, so completely all the lights will completely finish off, so all the pixels will be out. And I'm going to get this to travel to the right. Okay, so it's going to go across to the right. When I select OK, that's going to actually map it only to those arches themselves. So it takes a little while to generate the effect. Obviously, the amount of channels that you've got there will obviously affect the timings and also the speed of your computer itself. As you can see, it's already starting to work well. Okay, so it starts to jump through the percentages, and you'll notice these get faster and faster. It'll start to generate the effect now. Okay, input the timing marks themselves. As you can see in the background, it's starting to generate the effects. Alrighty, so now if we have a look at that particular effect, we should see something happening on the 4 arches just down the bottom here. Okay, so it comes in white to the chrome and then to the blue, moving left to right. Okay, if you're not happy with that, all you need to do is simply go back in, just click singly on the macro, you go back into your color slider macro, say you want them to go up instead. Okay, so my arches will actually transition up in their chase. So again, generate the effect, wait the time, and it's just about finished now, so it's generating the effect, it's automatically changing those effects for us. We'll let it finish, it's cleared it off, and now we can have a look at it. So we'll open up our display preview again, and instead of going left to right, we should see it go from bottom to top. Okay, so we see a vertical chase there, which is quite nice. Alrighty, so I hope that's helped you out with some of the very basic effects of LightShow Pro. There will be future webinars shortly that will actually identify some of the more complex or some of the more user difficult tasks inside LSP, but will make it very easy for you to follow. Thanks for your time.